It's time for the Friday Night Roundtable featuring a newsmaker interview with Raúl Grijalva, United States Representative from Arizona's 7th Congressional District. Joining me on the Friday Night Roundtable, Ann Brown of the Arizona Daily Star, Jim Ninsel from the Tucson Weekly, and Mark Kimball of the Tucson Citizen. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for returning to the Roundtable.
Thank you for the invite.
Well, President Obama says 4,000 more American troops will be headed for Afghanistan. Is that a good move, do you think?
That is, I have the dilemma. I really believe that that all the questions he talked about in his presentation, is it a good move, independent of the international support we have to have, independent of the firm commitment by Congress for the economic development and development monies that need to go into Western Pakistan and Afghanistan. Until those decisions are done, I wouldn't have made that troop commitment that we're making right now. I think we need to know what the end game is. We need to know what the consequences of an involvement there. And there's a history there, a history of an occupation by a foreign power in that region has never been successful. And I hope we're not getting ourselves into a quagmire that's going to become part of the legacy of this administration. I think the president understands that he has to have international support, NATO for sure. I wish all those blocks would have been in place before the big commitment.
Congressman, the President and Jan Napolitano, Secretary of Homeland Security, this week outlined a rather substantial plan to improve security on the border. Are these some things that really needed to be done for a long time?
Absolutely. We're dealing with a situation that the enforcement strategy has been to get that illegal crosser. Let's get him or her. And that's part of the mission. But also part of the mission is that we're dealing with organized crime, cartels sending human smuggling and drug smuggling this way, and cash and guns and laundered money out. On both sides, an organized effort. I think the attention that the Secretary and the President gave and the work with Mexico, acknowledging that this is a shared problem and a shared responsibility, and pinpointing and targeting those organized activities, smart, overdue, and a response to this growing violence, and it had to happen, and I'm glad it did.
During the campaign, President Obama had said when he created a budget that he would go line by line through it and cuts, but the budget that was proposed and sent to Congress doesn't seem like, to me, it includes many cuts, and I would like to get your opinion on the budget and what, if any, cuts are going to be coming.
I think that the big area of debate that's coming up is defense and the kinds of cuts that could or could not occur in that. That is going to be a big debate, at least in the House of Representatives and to some extent at the Senate, about an area in which we should look at Cold War weapons that President mentioned, look at outmoded and outdated technology, and look at we're continuing some weapons that are no longer viability. We're continuing them simply because they're needed in a region economically. That's an area for cuts. I think some of the subsidies that we're giving in some areas is an area for cuts. But overall, I think his budget talks to the reality of our economy right now. That intervention and that infusion of federal dollars into the economy in this budget is necessary. There is no other way around it. And unfortunately, we have the issue of people talking about we have to do something about the deficit. We also have more and more people unemployed, more and more people without insurance, more and more states and local communities having to cut education and other services. You have this going on at the same time. And I'm glad the president put some attention into this portion of it, because I don't think we could keep going this route without some heavy and important resource involvement by the federal government.
You say people are saying we do need to do something about the deficit. The Congressional Budget Office is saying that the Obama budget is going to be $2.3 trillion more than his estimates are coming out to be over the years. What can we do about the deficit?
I think the strategy for me, and I think all of us are talking about, the way we're looking at the deficit, I think we need to have the plan that he started out. By the first term, this is how much the deficit would be reduced. And how we do that is the line item issue that went through it. I think we also do it by generating the additional revenue that we do and cutting out some of the special breaks that have been part of the legacy of the past 10 or 12 years in terms of financial services and the higher 2% of the income bracket. And I think it has to be something that we acknowledge. As we invest in education and healthcare, that shouldn't be a pay-go issue that the very next, you have to have an offset that day. I think that offset to reduce the deficit should be over a 5, 10, 15-year period, because that investment is going to take that long to pay off. And to demand that be offset immediately toward the deficit ledger, I think it'll be impossible to accomplish.
So repeal the tax cuts for the top 2% and below that 98% tax increases for those folks at all?
I don't think that's the promise of the president, but you have to be. I think we also have to be honest with the American people. There's going to be some shared cost involved, and areas in which we had not looked, transition taxes in the federal services, additional cost that the taxpayer is going to incur in order to move forward out of this. That could probably happen and probably will happen, but I think the rest of the 95 to 98% is not to a burden anymore, because they've had the burden for the last 12 years.
What do you think the impact of the federal stimulus program will be here in Arizona? Do you think it's going to make an impact?
I think it will in the jobs side, and in the education, it'll soften some of the cuts, but not eliminate them. In some of the social service, human infrastructure issues, it'll soften some of the cuts, but not eliminate them. But I think the immediate stimulus plus is going to be people at work and some major capital projects, i.e. transportation.
Speaking of the stimulus bill, Congressman, the requirements in some of the education part of it will require the legislature to restore about $150 million in cuts to universities. Philosophically, is it fair for the federal government to be telling states how they ought to be solving their budget problem?
Philosophically, when you're making this kind of an infusion into a state, I think it is important to require at least a maintenance of effort on the part of the state of Arizona. I think that's going to be a difficult issue with this legislature in terms of trying to get that match and to try to bring it up to the maintenance of effort. There is also in the stimulus package the opportunity for a waiver on some of the requirements that was put in specifically. And maybe some of us in the delegation are going to have to swallow hard and pursue a waiver idea, simply because I think we can't allow to lose all this money as a consequence of this. Some restoration at the university level is essential, and pursuing a waiver is something I wouldn't want to do, but I would do, because otherwise we're forsaking all kinds of additional support that we need to have.
Congress sent the president the Omnibus Public Land Management Act this week, which I know you're very interested in, collection of 164 bipartisan bills. So I'd like you to comment on that and what it does for Arizona.
Well, there's some specific things in it for Arizona Trail, some issues dealing with the water study and the Sierra Vista, very important to San Pedro and to the life of that area. Up in the northern Arizona, a couple of areas in terms of addition to it, to land, Walnut Creek, and others designated as wilderness and as protected areas. Good. I think for the big point for Arizona is that BLM is now a unit, and we have a lot of Bureau of Land Management. And now as a unit, we can start having a concerted effort about resource management, and also begin to look at the kind of fiscal support we have to give BLM. It's a good bill, the largest in 50 years for this country. We'll be at the signing on Monday with the president. We're proud of the 18 months of work. Now we begin to package what this session's next bill is going to be. And we're going to pay more attention to heritage areas. We had the Arizona Heritage Area at the behest of, with the insistence of a Republican senator from Arizona that was removed. We're going to reintroduce that and pursue it, and that was something we lost as part of the negotiations. I was
Speaking of Republican senators from Arizona, even though they both had bills in the package, as my understanding, they voted against the final passage of that bill, of the Omnibus Bill?
Yeah, no, and that happened in the House too. People had bills in there, and it's a wonderful situation where you can have your cake and eat it too. And I think that's the case with the people that voted against it, that had significant and insisted through the negotiations that those portions be in and that other portions be out. It's disappointing, but it's wonderful if you can pull it off, that you're able to criticize and condemn and still issue a press release lauding yourself for being able to get that part in the bill. I thought it was kind of funny.
Healthcare reform is also on the Democrats' agenda,
yeah.
possibly even by August. You're on record saying you support a single-payer system. Is that something the nation can afford while we're dealing with all these other bills?
That's a philosophical position I've held forever. In terms of the reform, is it realistic going to happen? Probably not. But I think the position that is very important that I've taken and that other members of Congress are taking in this health reform package, that if there isn't an even playing, robust, public portion of healthcare reform that is going to come out of this, many of us are going to have a very, very difficult time supporting the package.
What do you think will come out of this?
I think it's going to be a blend, a strong public portion. There'll be the private side as well. I think we make it competitive for the public side and let people choose. We have Medicare, Medicaid, those kinds of programs, I think make them more efficient, but retain a robust, even playing field public side along with the private sector.
An individual who doesn't have an opportunity to buy health insurance through work can buy a health insurance policy through the government, essentially?
Essentially, that would be the access point and the affordability point. And private sector, I think there's a benefit to us also from the private sector because they're competing on an even playing field with no government subsidy, as we did for Plant D and Plant B in the last health reform package. And they have to look at it at the cost issue too for the consumer. Healthcare is the fastest rising cost in this country. And premiums continue to rise 24-25%. And so cost controls and an even paying field, I think that's the way it's going to go with, I hope, and that's the insistence, a robust, even playing public side to it.
There is growing outrage over the bailouts, as you know. If another company goes before you and your colleagues saying they need more money, what do you think the reception is going to be?
Then the outrage is justified. The fact that, I think in this environment, and it's the huge mistake, this is no more insider deals anymore. This is a public and has to be transparent. AIG and their bonuses and the $2.5 billion the other day, as you try to stabilize the financial services market in Wall Street, these things happen, and the public confidence in the strategy begins to erode. And I think what we did symbolically to limit bonuses is a good step, but I think the administration, certainly the Treasury Secretary, have to be much more assertive and aggressive in this portion of it, or we're going to lose the momentum we're trying to establish in reviving Wall Street because people are outraged by it.
The modern streetcar that Tucson plans to build got about $2 million recently for engineering and design. When it comes time to build the streetcar, will there be federal dollars available for it?
Yeah, we're going through, we're going right now, we're going to start the transportation part of it, and that's the agenda item as far as I'm concerned for transportation in southern Arizona. It has been for a long time. And yes, there is money there, and I think we have to put ourselves in the competitive situation with other communities to get it. Great selling point that we didn't have 2 years ago is the economy, clean air, climate change, and fuel efficiency. Those are factors that weren't as powerful 2 years ago. They're huge now, and that's what that brings to it.
Congressman, thank you very much for being with us. Have yourself a great weekend.
Okay, I will.
All right.